Hey guys, Rocambasco here, and today I tried beating Far Cry 4 without taking damage. Obviously, this isn't a perfect no damage run, because anytime I do take damage, I just reloaded the checkpoint or restarted the mission. But don't worry, anytime I do take damage that I can't avoid, you guys will be the first to know. So anyway, the game begins at the Kyrat border, which is a big problem already. Skyrim taught me that border crossings always end in bloodshed, so I acted normal, I passed my passport to a ghoul, and before I know it, the situation became hectic. The passengers knew that hand slaps could only lead to funerals, so they decided to have one last foot race so they could at least be happy when they died. The soldiers killed them, I avoided taking damage, Pagan shows up in his helicopter, and he's clearly upset. He explains to the Red Beret dude that he almost made me fail the challenge, so he kills him, which I'm all about, but now I had psychological damage. However, psychological damage won't result in me failing the challenge, so it's a-okay. Pagan adopts me, captures the magical moment on camera, and we go back to Paul's house to have a party. Our celebration is cut short because Pagan had to torture the dude from the bus, so he told me not to move and enjoy the crab rangoon. Health class taught me what crabs are, but I don't know what rangoon is. Either way, the first thing is a gross STD, and the other is unknown to me. I love my new dad, but I didn't want this poison, so naturally I didn't stay here or enjoy the crab rangoon. Instead, I met Sabal, a man who fiercely loves tradition, and therefore, he also loves little girls. I was eager to get away from the man who wanted to be a part-time Santa Claus for all the wrong reasons, so I ran to the nearest vehicle. The scariest thing about Kyrat is its random weather. Sometimes it's bright and sunny, other times it's cloudy and snowing. Today, it was raining bullets with a high probability of failing the challenge, but I somehow made it to the safety of the nearest car completely unscathed. But I couldn't relax just yet because the shitstorm was only just starting. The country of Kyrat was in the middle of a civil war, but thanks to 90% of the country's economy being used to make golden statues of Pagan, and the other 10% going towards Pagan shoes, this made expenses for the royal army pretty tight. So fortunately, instead of sandbags, they had to use explosive barrels as cover, which made the first group of enemies easy to deal with. But it's the second group of quad drivers that make this beginning sequence a living hell. I had no choice but to use the Scorpion for this section. The Scorpion had a lot in common with a pile of shit, because they're both shit. It took a whole clip to kill a single dude, and by that point I had already got shot by one of them. So after 30 minutes of constantly failing this part, I decided I would have to already fail the challenge. Me being dramatic, I did so by hanging my head in shame. Hold the phone. You see that? It's almost like they can't shoot me. So I started mashing the healing button to make sure of it, but damn, I must have taken damage from one of them crashing into the vehicle. So I restarted, did it again, mashed that healing button for the entire ride, and I finally made it through that section without getting shot or taking damage in any way. Wow. This is the first time in my life where being dramatic made a situation better. So now that I had more freedom than a citizen of China, I made my way to the bell tower. Along the way, I learned that stealth would be my best friend in this challenge, since it's hard to dodge bullets. But for those of us who lack the patience for stealth, getting the element of surprise worked just as well too. So anyway, I reunite with the man who envies full-time babysitters, I hide behind the tower while the Royal Army and Golden Path fight. The weather decides to act up yet again, so I get swallowed in an avalanche, and with that, the prologue ends. I'll be honest, from here, the challenge gets stupidly easy, even though I'm playing on hard difficulty, so I'm only gonna discuss the missions that gave me the hardest time, which is, sadly, far and few in this challenge. So anyway, I end up in Banapur village and I meet Amita. I told her it would be smart to keep every small child away from Zabal, and then I decided Naruto would be a more suitable name for Zabal since he keeps forcing his one-sided friendship on me. So anyway, that brings us to the first important mission in the challenge, meeting Longinus. Longinus is a religious fanatic and can't say 2 words without mentioning Jesus or a revelation. He asked me what gun Jesus would use, and I told him probably nothing since it would be too hard to wield a gun with giant nails in your hands. And then Sabal started crying over the radio and saying that shit was going down in Bonapur, so I hopped in my quad and started driving. But this is when I discovered how annoying traveling is in this challenge. If you travel by car, the Royal Army soldiers will shoot you on sight. If this happened during a mission, I could just reload the checkpoint, but outside of a mission, you can't do that. And you can't quit because it saves your progress, so I would literally have to quit the entire game anytime I took damage, which was one of the worst parts about this challenge. Traveling on foot wasn't much better either. Since I made that joke about Jesus, he told every animal in Kyrat to attack me on sight, so I had to constantly be on the lookout for infantry that would try to make me fail the challenge, or air support, which usually made me panic and therefore would get a clean hit, so I could never relax at any point in my playthrough. So anyway, back to the mission. Fire was pretty scary because even the smallest lick from a flame could damage me, so I carefully maneuvered around it all, but that's when I entered the village. Fire was everywhere, so I had to avoid it all while killing the bad guys, but they were too busy burning houses and killing civilians to notice me, so I killed them all without taking damage. That is, until I jumped into Baudra's house. I came here to be a hero and save her life, but I had to restart because of that goddamn fire, so I did it again, and this time I succeeded. But I couldn't carry her back up that ladder, so I had to use her as a battering ram. Baudra said thank you, and I told her just to be grateful that I found her before Sabal did, and with that, the mission ends. I did a few more missions for the Silver Road, and now the entire map had opened up to me, which was a big deal for the challenge. There were 2 things that would make this challenge very easy for me: stealth and my loadout. Obviously, stealth was my best friend in this challenge because the enemies can't damage me if they don't know I'm there, so that's why I decided to use suppressed weapons for the entire run, which leads me to my loadout. Activating the bell towers gives me free weapons and unlocks weapons that are locked, 2 of which I needed was the sniper rifle and the grenade launcher. The nade launcher would help me in vehicle sections because it was inevitable that I was going to have to drive at some point in the challenge. It was very effective at killing everyone in a vehicle before they had a chance to shoot me. My next weapon was a suppressed sniper rifle. First of all, it was quiet, and quiet equals stealth. And secondly, I could kill dudes from super far away, which was 10 billion times more safe than getting in close, especially during defense missions. My primary weapon would be a suppressed assault rifle, perfect for those close to long range encounters, and most enemies carry assault rifles, so I would always be stocked up on ammunition. And lastly, there's the RPG. When it comes to anti-vehicle weaponry, the RPG is unmatched. I mainly got this for helicopters because 1 second, there's a really big problem soaring through the sky and threatening the challenge, and the next, you're 1 rocket short. So now that all that important information is out of the way, let's continue with the challenge. But first, you should consider leaving a like, a comment, and maybe even subscribe if you're enjoying the video. After that, I met some douchebags, they used evil drugs to knock me out, and when I woke up, the crab rangoon had hit the fan. I was naked, I was a dog now, there were boobs all around me that I couldn't even touch, and now I had to do a modern day gladiator fight, with nothing but a machete. I quickly realized that hopping around aimlessly without a plan was a recipe for disaster, so instead I turned to stealth tactics. I snuck my way over to the giant doors, and since the animals and people were all too focused on each other to notice the naked troglodyte hiding in the corner, they never saw me. Whenever one dude was left at the end of a round, I would sneak around to gather supplies. Then I'd take out the last guy, and repeat this process for every round. And since I was hiding against these doors, no one ever came out of them, so this mission was way too easy, except for the LMG dude in the final round. But even he wasn't that tough. As long as I hid behind the pillar, I could clean up the weak dudes, so I could focus on the thick boy without any distractions. Getting into a head-on fight with him was too dangerous, So instead, I would just throw a grenade and a Molotov at him, and while he was busy getting fucked, I doused him in lead, and with my success, the mission ends. After that, there's not much to say about most of the missions in southern Kyrat. Sure, they could be tricky, but you could find a way to cheese every mission, and each one plays out in one of 3 ways. Use flawless stealth and complete the mission with 2 kills or less, pick off everyone from super far away without being seen, or if I had to go in guns blazing, I just used the peek out of cover and shoot the dude strategy, but I always used stealth when I had the option. The only thing you really need to know about these missions is that I usually had to restart each one at least 3 times, but in the end, I could avoid taking all that damage. 2 notable parts I do want to mention real quick is defending the monastery and the drug factory mission. The monastery would normally be hard, but before the mission started, I blocked one of the bomb sites with a vehicle, so I only had to focus on the bomb site directly in front of me and the other one directly behind me, so I never had to leave the safety of my platform. In the drug factory mission, there's a sequence where you're hallucinating, and I thought this would be the first fail, but as long as you stay back and spam your weapons, the enemies can never touch you, so I walked out of there with full health, and that's when I met Willis. My first encounter with him was an action-packed fiasco that took no more than 4 restarts to beat. Willis may look like a cool bro, but even dog shit can wear a hat and sunglasses, so I risked my life helping this man time and time again, but then he decided it was time to pull an Andy. He didn't want to play with me anymore, so he threw me away like garbage, and then a guard smacks me in the face. Did I take damage here? Let's find out in just a minute. So I end up in prison, and I meet Pagan once again. I knew this mission was going to be hell, so I told him I would be a good son and eat the shitty crab rangoon. Hell, I would even let him torture one of my Golden Path buddies again if I didn't have to hang out in prison. But he insisted I stay here. He called it tough love. But what's so loving about letting a stranger penetrate my body with drugs and my mind with demonic voodoo nonsense? Tough love? Sounds like no love to me. But anyway, I snuck around the demons so I could build a grappling hook, which I then used to descend the mountain with. I pull a Humpty Dumpty thanks to this random demon asshole, and when I can finally see my health bar again, it was completely full. I even still had all of my body armor, so no damage was taken in that whole fiasco of getting smacked and falling down the mountain. This next part would take me a painful 45 minutes and a buttload of resets to get through, but nothing new here. Kill everyone from far away and use stealth the best you can. So I finish off the guards, I escaped, a hairy lumberjack saves me, I wake up to Amita, and she says enough is enough. It's time to escape southern Kyrat and fight our way into the north. So my current objective was to steal a truck and drive it to the gate that leads to northern Kyrat. I was scared since this was a driving mission, but when I stole the truck, I realized I could just exit the vehicle, scout ahead on foot, kill the bitches who threatened the challenge, and proceed with the vehicle. Killing the rest of the guards was tricky, but nothing a little trial and error can't solve, so in no time, I finished them off, and now we finally had access to the north. Since I made it to the north, I decided to celebrate by sitting down and watching TV, but Pagan said his right-hand woman, Yuma, lived nearby. I had to repay her for letting her lackey drug me up and making me see demons everywhere, so I went to her house, which was a cave, which only proved to me that she was in fact a demon, and then she blew drugs into my face. Can I stop getting roofied?
For 5 minutes!
Now I was in Shangri-La, but this whole mission is quite easy. Kill the enemies and Spider-Man my way to the mission's end. But then I found a man who wanted to harm me for no good reason. I chased after him, but all I found was a mostly naked Yuma. You know, maybe I judged her too quickly. I could see us getting along just fine. But I forgot she's a demon, so she tricked me, and now I had to fight the dude from earlier. Nothing was making sense anymore, so all I wanted to do was kill this dude and get back to reality. This fight was pretty rough since I had to stab this dude 3 times, all while avoiding his tiger and comrades. But with enough trial and error, anything is possible, so I chop him up, and he turns out to be Yuma. So now that I had faced my demons, I was ready to finish the challenge. So I planted some C4, I destroyed a temple, and now I had to escape on a boat. Turns out I did this on my first try, because there was only one boat, the mortars that attack us never even touched us, and I could easily take out the helicopters. The driver died only 5 feet from the mission's end, so I got through that mess completely unscathed. Then there's the village defense part, and the mission where I have to infiltrate Pagan's fortress, but sadly, nothing special happened in either of these missions, just good old trial and error. So now it was time to beat the game. How come the only part in this challenge that stumped me was the very beginning? Well, whatever. I confronted Pagan, I told him he was a piece of shit for letting his lackey roofie me a lot, and then he said I was a piece of shit for not giving the crab rangoon a chance. Understandable, so we forgave each other, we spread my mommy's ashes, he gave me Kyrat, I almost gave him an early death by accident, and with that, I beat the game. So can you beat Far Cry 4 without taking damage? Hell yes you can.